maybe it does feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're not actually saving a lot. But if you take a step back, you might be doing other things that are actually adding a tremendous amount of value, which is the equivalent of savings, even if it's not going into emergency savings.
This is Techie Personal Finance Bootcamp, where I help tech professionals in their 20s and 30s balance a great life today without sacrificing their future possibilities. I'm your host, Lucas Casarez, certified financial planner and founder of Level Up Financial Planning, where I help educate, coach, and build strategies with my clients to help them take their financial confidence to the next level.
Disclaimer alert. This information's for education, so don't just go use it. First consult with your financial advisor, because that's way more legit. That's it.
That was Orlando Gomez, and you can catch him in season 3, episode 4 on how he broke into tech by writing a jingle.
Hello, thanks for joining Techie Personal Finance Bootcamp. I'm excited to be talking today about why your finances might be better than you think. And I think this is an important topic, especially now. Everyone's stressed out about one thing or another, and finances is always an area of stress for a lot of my clients, especially when they first come to see me. And a lot of times we end up being surprised once we kind of look at the whole picture and be like, you know what, you're actually probably doing better here, and here than you thought. And it makes a huge difference to them. They get super excited. They feel a little bit more pride, less embarrassment over their financial situation. And so I wanted to create this episode because maybe that's the case for you. Maybe you're not totally on track with where you want to be, but you might have had some wins in there. And if we can kind of highlight some of those now, that could be the boost you need to kind of keep moving things forward and keep making progress financially. And so that's why I think this topic is a fun and exciting one to cover today. So, like I said, a lot of times my clients come to me and they rarely have a clear indication of, well, am I doing really good? Or sometimes they think they're doing better than they are just because they're maxing out their 401k. It's not always clear if you're kind of focusing on one area. There might be other things where it's a little bit messy, but at the same time, you might be focusing on an area like saving. Maybe you're not saving as much as you thought. And that's the first topic I want to kind of focus on for today is, well, maybe it does feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're not actually saving a lot. But if you take a step back, you might be doing other things that are actually adding a tremendous amount of value, which is the equivalent of savings, even if it's not going into emergency savings, even if you're not seeing your checking account grow every single month. You might be putting a huge chunk into your retirement accounts. And so that's a pretty common one where folks forget, even if they're maxing them out, putting in $24,000, $30,000 a year, in their mind, that's not the savings. And so when they think they're living paycheck to paycheck and that they're not saving anything, they totally ignore or forget how much they're putting into their retirement plans. But then there's also other things too, like stock options. So most of my clients have some form of options or employer compensation that's in the form of stock. And so that could be employee stock purchase plan, where maybe they're contributing there as their stocks are vesting, their RSUs, their incentive stock options, or non-qualified stock options. If this applies to you, any of those, and you're just letting those things build up, that's awesome that you're letting them build up. But you also got to recognize that that's you're saving those funds and not selling them, because in reality, a good chunk of folks, especially your coworkers, there's probably a lot of them who are actually selling those things and not selling them to diversify them or reinvest them somewhere else. And I'm sure there are some people that are doing that as well, but they're selling them because they need to sell them to live their normal lifestyle. Like, hey, I got these bills coming up, I got this travel coming up, and they're kind of using it just to kind of fund their lifestyle. Where if you're letting these things build up, and a lot of times my clients do this by default because they're like, I don't want to break anything. I don't want to cause a whole bunch of tax issues. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to deal with it. And so they've accumulated a huge amount of stock. And so if that applies to you, take a look at your vested stock. If those things are truly valuable, they're not necessarily startups, or you can't expect or rely that they're going to be a valuable resource in the future. If they actually do have value, you can go and sell them at any time. Then those things are super valuable, and they're probably even more powerful than what you'd be saving. If you were saving $200 a month, that's probably pennies compared to what those stocks are that are accumulating for your vested schedule there. So between the investments and the savings into the employer stock, letting those things build, retirement account contributions growing, those are pretty significant. And that means that yeah, if we wanted to actually see it going into emergency savings, we could dial those things down and redirect those into a savings account. And if we could do that, then basically you're doing the same thing, right? Where we just are compartmentalizing a little bit too much, where we ignore the fact that, hey, you actually are saving a ton and investing a ton. You're just not having it go into an emergency savings account. So that's one thing where people are sometimes shocked that they're actually saving a way higher percentage than they realized. Another thing where it's hard to track because it doesn't feel like real money is home equity. And so if you've owned a home for probably 5 years or greater, not only has your home equity likely increased, which is probably a pretty significant amount at this point if you've held it 5 years or longer, but you also probably have a very low locked in mortgage rate, which is tremendous. And so on that front, you might be further along than a lot of your peers, especially if you're on the younger side and a younger generation. If you've already locked in a home and have a really low mortgage interest rate, then you're probably more ahead of the game than you realize. It's just a lot of your value and net worth is going to be tied up in the home equity, which can help you pretty tremendously as far as navigating different strategies, navigating different things that might come up in the future. So it is definitely a resource, one that you don't want to minimize by any means because it's super valuable. And so another thing that I see, which is frustrating for a lot of the folks that I work with, is I work with a lot of career changers, a lot of folks that have come through boot camps, and even just people that maybe they've been in tech their whole career, but they didn't make the best financial decisions. They're trying to overcome different different obstacles that they had to face financially. And what I kind of categorize them all into is a lot of times they're trying to play catch up, and it might seem like there's no way you are gonna catch up, but for a lot of the folks that I work with, especially for those career changers where it's like, well, we just went from a $60,000 income to a $100,000 income. Like that's a significant increase in your income. And if you're able to keep that lifestyle the same way and apply all those extra funds to tackling things like paying down debt, yes, it doesn't feel the greatest because you're still not seeing your assets and your resources and your investments and your savings grow because we're having to tackle some of these previous obstacles and decisions that you made or that were right or wrong, just something that we have to deal with to make sure that we make progress and do the best we can now moving forward. But if you're throwing $2,000 a month, just for example, at debt to pay it off quickly, and you're actually paying it down by that much a month, that is gonna be converted to savings eventually. It's not yet because we're trying to dig ourselves out of this hole. But once you get out of that hole, that 2,000 that you're then able to start applying towards investments and savings, you really will change your trajectory a lot more than it feels like while you're stuck in the hole, kind of digging yourself out right now. So pretty tremendous if you are seeing yourself massively paying down debt. Yes, it's not as sexy and fun as building up investments and your savings accounts and seeing those things grow. But if you are truly making that progress on the debt, you're going to see that progress really compound once you get out of that hole and we start building things up on the wealth side of things. So paying down debt is something where it does feel like a slodge, like you're never going to get out of it. But if you truly do focus on it and contribute that much a month to paying it down, and maybe you're able to throw more at it. I've seen clients throw $4,000, $5,000 a month at their debt to kind of knock things out, and just that's a crazy amount to have extra for investing in savings once you get out of that hole. And so really what that comes down to is saving a high percentage of your income. And even if you're in your 30s or 40s and we're kind of tackling these things late and trying to play catch up, if you're saving 30%, 40% of your income, you're doing better than a majority of your peers next to you. And yes, you probably had a rougher start, kind of a different starting position as far as building wealth and building assets. But if you're really running that much faster than them, just kind of using that comparison is getting a different starting point and having to run faster to catch up. Well, if you keep that same speed once you do catch up, you're gonna go flying past people. And so there truly is, even if it doesn't feel that great right now financially, if you're changing your trajectory that much, like you will catch up. And not only will you catch up, you might end up be doing better in the long run just by having that different habits and lifestyles than maybe some of your peers that came in right out of the gate earning six figures, always earning that. So yes, they're able to save and invest a decent amount, but they probably also created a lifestyle for themselves where they're spending a decent amount more than you too, especially if you're recent off of those career changes and seeing your income jump pretty dramatically. And so if you're able to live a similar lifestyle to what it was previously before you saw your pay increases, that's going to be really ridiculous as far as what the possibilities and potential you're able to do financially. And it definitely means that your finances are a lot better than you realize. The biggest thing that you're going to have to watch out for, and if you've watched or listened to any of the episodes in the past, is that lifestyle creep is real. And yes, you do want to reward yourself kind of along the ways. But if you truly and made a huge change or dug yourself out of this hole, we generally don't want to go back, right? We want to keep making this tremendous progress and kind of see those financial benefits of having more flexibility, resources, being able to choose jobs that are better fits for you so that you're not experiencing burnout or getting laid off from a place that you didn't really like working at anyways. And so you can make better financial decisions, better life decisions if you have better financial control over your situation. And so taking advantage of that lower lifestyle and kind of rewarding yourself, but still making huge dramatic impacts towards your financial goals. That's going to be huge. And especially now, I think that's the one thing I just kind of remind my clients every time I talk to them. It's like, hey, yes, I know things might be doing awesome at work right now, but things are changing so fast, especially in the tech space where layoffs can come suddenly and those things can knock you down pretty bad. And now a quick message from our nonprofit sponsor, Tech by Choice.
Tech by Choice is a nonprofit that's focused on helping underrepresented groups understand, thrive in tech. Our main goal is to be a community that you don't need a code switch in order to learn what you need to thrive in tech. And so we do workshops for skill building. We talk about financial literacy. We also talk about mental health and what to do if you run into discrimination in the workplace. Any donations, if you go to techbychoice.org/donate, you'll get all of the details on how you can give to the organization. Things as little as like $5 really help us go. The other way that you can get involved and help Tech by Choice is to volunteer. We are always looking for mentors, and we're looking for people to help out with some of our resume review events and just supporting the community by even joining and answering questions in our Slack is always really helpful. And then if you have any connections for us to get those sponsorship deals and connect with larger companies and get out there in the tech streets, I'm always open to that as well. So there's a lot of different ways to help.
You really want to take advantage of these opportunities when you get a lot of chances to build things up and do things and get ahead as much as possible. Take advantage of that because that's not always going to be the case. There is a good chance that you'll experience a layoff. There's a good chance that there might be some other emergency, whether it's you or a close family relative that you're going to help out and be able to step in for. Where if you don't take advantage of these opportunities now, and then something like that pops up, then we end up being back in that hole, and we know what it's like being in that hole, and we don't want to kind of get back there. And so take advantage of the opportunities. You've been created this new opportunities for generating higher incomes. Take advantage now. Don't allow yourself to kind of fall back and go back into those holes. And it really will create a lifestyle and balance that you've never experienced before, and it's going to be a great place to be. So if you have any questions, if you kind of need clarity, especially if you're a client and maybe things have starting to get a little bit foggier around your goals and what things are looking like, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to kind of review those things with you and make sure that we update your strategy guide so it reflects your current spending, current income, all the recent changes you may have experienced over the last couple months. So look forward to hearing from anyone. And if you have questions, let me know. Nonprofit sponsors were provided ad space at no charge. I think they're awesome and I wanted to provide them a platform to spread awareness about the great work that they do.
Thank you so much for listening to Techie Personal Finance Bootcamp. You can find show notes by visiting levelupfinancialplanning.com and finding the podcast page. You'll also be able to find strategy guides, videos, and cheat sheets to help you take your financial confidence to the next level. If you feel this episode has added a ton of value for you, please rate and share this with friends and colleagues. Catch you next time on Techie Personal Finance Bootcamp.